Good morning, everybody. We are going to get started. I want to welcome everybody today for our webinar, which is Inside the Author Studio using microcontent and analytics for the best documentation experience. So today's session is going to be a lot of fun. Not a lot of PowerPoint today. We're going to be doing a practical show and tell. And since we are sort of trying to channel our inner James Lipton here, we thought we'd have a little fun and have our webcams on so you can actually see us talking today. So hoping that that all works well, and we're going to do our best to elegantly switch between things here. So hoping that the internet cooperates. We have good bandwidth with these cameras on, so we're hoping for the best that we try something a little different today. All right, well, what are we talking about? Well, how can you make sure you are giving your end users the information they need and what they want the most? You know, we always talk and we always think about search and how do we make search great? And what do we all do when we get stuck in the real world? Well, we often turn to content portals like Google and we do a search. And we want relevant answers quickly. And it turns out the users of your product, your service or training or whatever it is you're producing, they want quick answers as well. So ideally, we want to make our content as discoverable as possible while helping our users find all of those answers quickly. And that's what micro content from Flair and also analytics from MadCap Central are all about. So while you can use the data in Central right away, even if you're not venturing into the world of micro content yet, but when you use them together, some really cool things start to happen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I just realized I didn't introduce myself. So for those of you who haven't heard me before, my name is Jennifer Morse. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at MadCap Software. And I am so excited to also have Paul Stoecklein joining me today, who is going to share some wisdom with us about how we can maximize that search potential and ensure the best discoverability of our content. So Paul is the Director of Documentation here at MadCap Software and someone whom I've had the pleasure of working with for a really long time, someone that has taught me so much over the years. So I'm really honored to have you join us today, Paul, to talk about all this. So welcome. Thanks for joining. We appreciate you being here. Before we dive in, I just want to remind everybody that this webinar, for everybody's benefit here, it looks like my screen, a little bit of a delay, so hopefully you can all see that. This webinar is going to be recorded. So if you have to drop out early, not to worry, we'll send an email out to everybody when this is all done. You're going to get a link to the recording. Just also want to remind everyone there is a question panel in the GoToWebinar console. And so if you have a question as we're going along, please jot it in there. And we're going to do our best to get to as many of the questions as we can towards the end. We're going to try and save some time. Whatever we don't get to live, we are going to follow up with a question and answer document. So just a little bit of business there. Paul, we're going to turn it over to you here. So again, welcome once again. So happy that you're here with us today. You know, let's kind of set the stage a little bit for everybody. Let's start talking about micro content. Tell us what it is and why are you so excited about it?
Okay, well, thanks, Jen. Yeah, this is fun. I think this is going to be a fun webinar. It's to say that I'm excited about micro content is it's an understatement, really. You know, I've been using Flair since 8 months before it was born, so I'm familiar with the features, and this one is my absolute favorite feature. Before we came out with micro content, and you asked me what my favorite feature was, I would have a hard time answering because I like everything, but this one is just up there at the top for me. And I think the reason for that is it helps you solve a problem that content developers have had really forever, and that is getting the right piece of brief content in front of an end user at a particular moment. You see, end users, they're not going, oh, look, there's a help system. I think I'll sit down with a glass of wine and read the whole thing to my family tonight. You know, no one is reading the whole thing from beginning to end. At least I hope they're not. I would be worried about them if they were. They're looking for something in particular. But help systems get big. They get really big. My help system is big, and it can be overwhelming when you're when you're just looking for something in particular, you know, like you're sitting there and you're trying to work and you got, you know, you're trying to teach your kid math on this side, and the cat's climbing on the keyboard and the dog's barking and there's a forest fire outside, and all you want to know is, how do I change my logo? So you want something specific. And so that can be hard to find in a help system. And tech writers, we're not intentionally trying to hide content. It sometimes seems that way, especially in a big help system. You know, we're not going, hey, well, I'll just put this thing way down in the TOC 8 levels in. That'll teach them. They'll never find it. That's not happening, but it can be hard to find that stuff. So we have things like search, which are, it's really, really helpful, and it's definitely serves a purpose, but even search is imperfect. It only goes so far. And so that's where micro content comes in and kind of takes over and helps you get past that last hurdle. I can't hear you, Jen.
I was double muted. So maybe you could share your screen, Paul, because that's a pretty cool concept. Maybe can you give us a little real world example? You know, what do you mean by all of that?
Yeah, let me show you my screen. You should be seeing Flair online help. Is that what you're seeing? Cool.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So hopefully for everybody else on the call too, we just switched presenters. So I'm hoping you can see Paul's screen now, which is the online help for Flair 2020.
Yeah, I can absolutely show you a couple of examples of exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, so I just mentioned an example of a logo. You want to change a logo, like right up here. You're seeing my cursor, I assume.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Always have to check. Well, this is the Flair 2020 online help. Let's go back. I'm going to duplicate this, and let's go back and let's look at a few versions ago. 2018. Let's look at 2018 help. And let's say somebody is looking, they want to change, they want to know how to change their logo. Maybe they, you know, created a new project from one of Flair's templates, and they go in here and they type, oops, Ogo. You're not going to find Ogo. Logo. And so you get, this is what you see. This is the experience. You see all of these search results, which can be kind of hard, especially because a logo can theoretically be changed in a number of places. But what you're seeing here is a lot of results that have to do with skins, because that's one of the main places where you can change a logo, but it's not the only place. But even with that, you kind of have to depend on the end user to go in, and hopefully they click on the right thing and they go in and they find it. And the logo, the documentation is in there, but it is kind of a pain that you have to go find it. And so you're just hoping that the end user gets to the right place. So, and this is where the marriage between micro content and analytics really shines, because what happened was, I was using analytics and I noticed that, hey, people are particularly interested in finding information about changing their logo. Yeah, they're interested in other things about skins, all these things. There's tons of things, hundreds of things that you can do with skins. But I noticed a lot of people were looking forward to changing the logo. They want to know about that. And so I created a piece of micro content you go in the Flair 2020 help and you look for logo. Now this is the experience. This is micro content at the top. So maybe the light bulb went on for a lot of people that go, oh, I recognize that. I see that in Google. Yeah, that's kind of where this started. You do a search and now you see these little objects and widgets, these things that come up and give you the answer right away. So what I did here was I just gave people the 3 main ways that you can change your logo. It's just real quick steps. Just do this if you want to change it in the skin or the master page. Or so, like I said, a lot of the our project templates have logo also set up in a title topic for PDF output. So I just gave people this information, and hopefully that helps. It helps them cut through all of that, and they don't have to go figure out what to click on. They just get the information. That's kind of the magic of micro content. Or people might. I did notice something else this summer actually. Like people will do searches, let's say, for snippets here, and you see I've got some content, some text at the top, and I've got a I've got a table on the left, and then I like to have visual element, and it's usually on the right, not always, but usually. And in this case, it's an animated GIF. So I'll do that, or they might type something in like create conditions, and it's sort of the same thing, a set of steps, and I got an animated GIF over on the right. Or I do use a lot of static images too, when I don't think an animated GIF will do. And so something like this. So content, and I got images over on the right. So what I noticed this summer as I was looking at analytics is a lot of people seem to be trying to figure out how to do this. And the information is in the help, but the phrases they were using to look for it wasn't necessarily coming up. Now this is the 2020 help. So if you put image next to text, I noticed that's what a lot of people were searching for. You're not going to get it because I hadn't created micro content for it yet. But after we released 2020, I did create some. I'll actually open up. This is actually the help system that's going to be in the next version of Flair. So I have it in here. So image next to text. And this is your experience now. Piece of micro content. The way that I'm creating these structures is responsive layouts. This is one of the ways that you can do it. And so I just kind of explain that and give a link to it. You can also use absolute positioning or float positioning. So when people look for that, they just don't have to go digging and digging and digging. And that's why I just love the ability to do this, because I want to give people the information right away. I don't want them to have to go look and look and look and get frustrated. Yeah. So hopefully that all makes sense.
It does, yeah. So, so if we're just starting out with this, so this is really about, leveraging content here. How, as Flair users, if we're just starting out, how do you actually begin?
Okay. I actually do have a couple of other projects. If I get a small project open here, this is one that's based on one of our little templates when you create a new project, and it's called Austin. It's about the city of Austin, Texas, and I actually already created some micro content in here. So it's really micro content. It's about phrases and responses, as you've seen, and just one of the uses is this whole search results. There's other things that you can do with it. You can do field level help. Potentially, you could do chat bots, as long as you've got a phrase and a response to go with it. So in this little project, you can see in the Content Explorer under Resources, I created a folder called Micro Content. And then I already added a micro content file. That's where the guts are. That's going to hold this stuff. And this is real easy to create. I just have one in here. You could create lots of micro content files. I actually have lots of micro content files in my real project because I like to categorize and organize things. So it's really easy. You just right click on that, say new micro content. This is going to come up. You just give it a name and click add. That's how I created this. I'll open this up. This is the editor. Now I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through all the ways to create micro content. There's multiple ways to do it. Just real briefly, I'll let you know that some of the ways that you can create micro content, it can be done right from this editor. And you can see I already have a couple of phrases. They're listed on the left. The response that goes with them is on the right. So if I click on this other phrase, the correct response is on the right. And I could create them from the editor. I could click that button to create a new phrase, type whatever I want, and I could just manually type what I want over on the right, or I could expand that and I could link it. I could link it to a topic or a snippet, but I don't necessarily recommend people use this method of creating it from the micro content editor, and I'll show you why. I'd say about 5% of the micro content that I create, I do it this way, where I'll create the phrase in here and then I'll link it to a snippet. And there's a particular reason why I do that, but most of the time I'm not doing that. Most of the time I'm creating my micro content from a topic. For example, I will just open up this topic here. And the reason why I do it this way is because you get to be much more exact. You get to pinpoint exactly the content that you want to include, nothing more, nothing less. And the other methods fall short of that a little bit. Plus, this allows you to single source. You're leveraging stuff you already have. A lot of the times, you'll realize I need to create a piece of micro content for something. Well, you probably already wrote it. You just need to leverage it. So in this topic, I already have a couple of pieces of micro content, which are what you saw in here: State Capitol, Zilker Park. And I know this is micro content because I've got my structure bars on, which you can turn on and off down here. And you can see, if I hover over that, that's a piece of micro content right there. And I can click and change whatever I want, but it's all in that container. And Zilker Park's in another one right there. So let's see how quickly and easily this is. You can really get set up with micro content in seconds. So let's say I want this to be micro content. So I'm just gonna select it, click create micro content. I'll just enter a phrase, lady, bird, lake. It doesn't have to be context sensitive. And I click OK, and it opens up my micro content editor. It created it. There's my new phrase, and the response over here on the right. Now, another thing that you can do is you can add alternate phrases, which are like synonyms. So maybe somebody doesn't search for that phrase exactly. And so just looking through here. Okay, so Lady Bird Lake, that's President Lyndon Johnson's wife. And so let's add an alternate phrase in here. I'll just click this little button and let's just type Lyndon Johnson. So there's an alternate phrase. So that way I kind of cover my bases. People can search for either thing and it will show up. Now, so I have got my micro content. That was really quick. It's very easy to do. So the next part is you just got to make sure that you got a target that can handle this. Now, I've got a couple of targets in here. One's HTML5, one's PDF. You got to be using HTML5 for micro content to work. But the good news is most people who are using Flair, creating online output, they're going to use HTML5. Most people are. So I've got my target open, and then you just got to make sure, click on search, make sure you got the right search engine. And Flair gives you a choice between three. There's MadCap search, which you just get right out of the box, or there's Elasticsearch, and that will work with micro content. If you select Google search, it's not going to work, unfortunately. So those are your two options. Just make sure you select either MadCap search or you get set up with Elasticsearch. And it's really that simple. And then I can just generate my output here, and it'll come up in a second because this is a really, really small project, and we'll just do a test and see how this works. So yeah, very, very fast. I can run through and create a whole bunch of micro content in a day if I get the time set aside. So you don't always have to type exactly the phrase. Sometimes you could just kind of get close to it. Let me see if Ladybird works. Yeah, it did. So I get my search results, but I get this piece of micro content up here. And notice that the image is kind of cut off. That's because the default height of this is 200 pixels. And you can go into your skin and change that. I changed mine to 400. I just like that size. Sometimes it gets cut off, but you have this little expand collapse dealy bob here. And so that's nice. But 400 pixels, I just found I like that height. And the other reason why I create micro content the way I did from the topic is that because it's linked to a topic specifically, I get this automatic link down here. I don't have to put this in. So a lot of times I'll have micro content that's just in the middle of a topic, and then somebody goes, oh, okay, I get it. You start reading this, you go, I want to know more. So you click on that. Now you get more information, more context. It's just a really nice method that I've found to do it. So that's it. It's not that complex. It's pretty simple to put together.
So it sounds like, again, just to kind of reiterate for the audience, that when we think about the micro content, because Flair does such a good job of allowing authors to reuse and single source, if we can leverage from our existing longer form topics sometimes, because sometimes topics are longer, right? They don't really fit that mold of, maybe something short and sweet that somebody can digest in 10 to 30 seconds. So can we reuse information from our longer form content and give someone a real quick little bit of information in addition to all the search results that they may give? And if we can leverage our existing topic content, well, then it still gives us one place to update and edit that information.
Right.
So that we can follow all those great rules of single sourcing that we know and love and adhere to when we're authoring. And using that quick little button to create it saves you from having to know how to code it.
Yeah, exactly. And let me just add one other thing here. Sometimes you want to, there's a lot of more information that I'm leaving out about micro content, because I could talk for a week on this. So if you want to know more than just this little bit that I'm giving you, you can actually go into the help and type micro content, and you get micro content about micro content. And so this is what I would do if you want to really dive into it and learn. This is an overview of all the important information you need. Now, I actually would start with the tutorial. I'd click on this thing and I would just work through it so that you can actually create a sample project and do this. And another thing that you just kind of alluded to there was being able to leverage the content that you have. Well, one of the things that I found was a lot of my topics will be, I don't want to say ultra long, but kind of long, and I only want to use part of that stuff. And so one of the cool things is you're able to actually do some neat things in single source your micro content, and I've got information about that over here on the right side. And let me give you just a quick illustration of what I'm talking about. So you look for create condition in the help, and you see this short little set of steps here, and you got the animated GIF over here on the right. But if you click the full topic, notice how long the steps are. I've got some sub steps in here, which I left out of the micro content, but I wasn't copying and pasting anything. I was just saying, hey, leave this stuff out of the micro content. So it's powerful. So you can do a lot of really cool things like that. Like you said, Jen, leverage what you've already done.
Right, and then using things like condition tags to control what shows up in our micro content response versus what shows up in the longer form procedure.
Right.
So again, adhering to all those great single sourcing techniques that are available to us in the tool without having to code it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so I know this is something, when we came out with this about a year ago, something that you really wanted to do. You had the opportunity to kind of give it a go. It may have, I can imagine that when this became available to you, it probably felt kind of like a big undertaking to even begin. How do you even start thinking about this? We're talking about phrases here, right? So how do you get inside people's heads? And we want that phrase to ideally point to something that's curated and directed and concise. Again, it probably felt a little bit daunting to even think, well, okay, it's here, but where do I even start? We talk about creating phrases out of our content, but like, how do you even get to the phrase part? Because
Right.
we support lots of products, and like many companies that use Flair probably have large product sets. So you need to think about how people search, how to, you got to get inside people's heads. How did you even begin thinking about the relevant phrases that people would even come up with, to kind of direct yourself and really focus?
Right, that's a great question, and it was overwhelming. It was actually, I had mixed feelings because as soon as I got my hands on it, like, 6 months before we released, and I started playing with it, and I got excited like I was opening up a new toy, and I started playing with it, creating stuff. Just all right, how do you create a new topic? And I would type it in a question format and start creating this stuff, and then I started realizing, oh my God, I've got a really big help system. Where do I begin? Where do I begin doing this? And well, I create my phrases. I decide what to create micro content from in a few ways. First of all, I'll do it proactively. Like if I'm creating brand new topics of a new feature that we have nothing written about in Flair, and I'll be writing, and I'll just sort of realize this could be a good piece of micro content. And I think people might think of this phrase or enter this phrase when they're looking for it. So I try to anticipate, I try to be proactive, and I do that. And I do use my format. And if anybody wants to see how I do this, I use snippets and I use templates to drag things in and do it. If we have time later, I could show somebody how I actually do that. So I do it proactively. I also talk to people in the company, tech support or you, Jen, people who interact with customers, and I get good information about, what do people want. But none of that is real scientific. And so that's why I rely heavily on what we've already talked about, and that's analytics. So by analytics, I just mean a system looking at your output and seeing how people are using it, and then giving me that information so that I can act accordingly. Now, when we're talking about output analytics, you've got a couple of options. You could actually, people always ask us, can you do Google Analytics? Yeah, you can. I've never used it, but it should be pretty easy to set up. As far as I know, you can just create a Google Analytics account, get your ID, put it in the heading of your head tags of your master page, generate your output, and see what people are using it for. But you also have analytics that we have in MadCap Central, and that's what I use, of course, because it's MadCap. But there's also benefits to it, things that Google Analytics can't do, in particular when we're talking about micro content. It's very, very powerful. So yeah, so let's look at some analytics.
And Paul, I just want to mention too, you kind of sparked something in my brain when you mentioned Google Analytics. Since I do have the opportunity to talk to a lot of people about this, and we talk about Central, and just for everybody's benefit, Central does a lot of things. Analytics is just one of them, and it's really cool, which we're going to show. And then, but I also get the question too, well, we use Google Analytics. We don't need this extra stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, what we're going to talk about next, I hope is helpful, because I actually think that if you can get Google Analytics set up in your output and you can use Central, I think the data points really complement each other. Mm-hmm. I don't think it necessarily has to be one or the other. If you can use and extrapolate good data, use what you can get.
Right, exactly. I'll take what I can get.
Exactly, and I think that if you don't have Google, if you don't have the resources to get the Google Analytics set up, Central's really easy. Takes 2 seconds. Yeah. But maybe you can use both together and really complement the data points that you're gathering. So yeah. It never has to be one or the other. You can use both together. They work great. Sorry,
that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. So let me open up Central. This is I've got a couple of licenses. So you purchase Central, you have a license, and so I have got, this is my actual license. You can see MadCap software, and so this is all my actual, I've got projects in here, I've got all kinds of stuff in here, but I also have this other license which I call FictionSoft, and this is like a sandbox for me. It's a little playground where I can mess around with things and take screenshots and do things like that. So in my actual project, there's lots of, the navigation over here lets you see and do lots of things. And the analytics part is right here. I just click on that, and you can see I already have analytics keys. So what you do is you create a key and you associate that with a particular Flair target. And I've got them set up for different products and versions of products. So you can see the Flair 2020 one, the most recent one. So if I click on that, you're going to see all of this information and the different types of information you can see. You can navigate on the left here, phrase, search stuff and content and demographics. We'll get to all that. So phrases actually is where I spend most of my time. And you can see that since we published the Flair output, there's been lots of searches that have been going on. And they're all listed here. If I click here, they're all listed here, and they're listed by default in order of the number of searches. So you can see there's been lots of searches in the last few months, and in fact, there's 10,706 pages worth of searches. So this is one page right here. And so there's a lot to go through. But what I do is I'll start and I'll look, what do people want to know about most? So you can see CSH is right here at the top, context sensitive help. Actually, micro content is what people are after most, it seems, because there's one spelling here with a space and another one right here. So I know a lot of people are interested in these things, and glossary, TOC, snippets, so on. So this gives me, and notice that most people aren't typing sentences or questions. They do. That does come up, but most of the time, I don't know about you, Jen, but most of the time when I do searches, I just type a word or two, and that's exactly what people are doing. And that can be a challenge because you have to try to discern what they're after. That can be a challenge in and of itself. But at least this is giving you information about where people's minds are at, what they want to know. So I spend a lot of time here looking at this. So we'll come back to this in a little bit. I want to show you how easy it is to set something like this up. Let's go back to this little project that I've got.
Also, Paul, again, you just said something too that made me think too that can be helpful. You mentioned people use sometimes phrases, they'll use a question, they'll just type in a word. At least you have something available to start a discussion with another department. Like, as you mentioned, I think it still helps if you have the ability to talk to other departments about what customers are looking for from the trenches. Maybe it gives you a little bit of indication of, hey, I'm noticing these phrases that people are using. What do you think people mean by that? But you may still not understand the context. So at least you can have good conversations with other department folks, that you have the opportunity to work with, to say, what do you think they mean by this? I'm seeing this a lot.
That's a great point. Actually, I'll come back to what I was just talking about and show you an example of that. Just triggered something in my head because there was a time when I noticed people were looking for, they were looking up license, and they were looking up download and install, things like that. And I actually talked to you at that, I remember, and I talked to people in tech support because I don't really document what happens before you get Flair. I don't talk about purchasing or any of that, or downloading Flair, any of that stuff. It's once you have Flair, here it is, what is it, how do you use it? But I was noticing people were searching for these things, and so you guys all said the same thing. Yeah, oh yeah, we get that. People will call, this is what they're after. So it was looking for license or download or install. So if you look for license now, you're getting, here's how to retrieve your license. Here's, how to view license details, things like that. So that was really nice. So I had the information, I had what people were after, but it still helps to interact with the people in your company to get that exact information, or get that idea of what people are after, because otherwise I'd be guessing. I mean, we all are kind of guessing, but you guys are getting those questions, so you have more insight than I do. So I'm using what you guys know. So let's go to this little project that I've got all about Austin. And actually, so in this little license here I've got for FictionSoft, you can, I'll click over here on projects, and you can see I've already bound this project to this central license. So it's already up here. I have this relationship with it. I just haven't created any analytics key to see what's going on in the output. So what I'll do is open up the HTML5 target again, and we've got this tab over here on the left. Now in the provider, you just click this and you select Central. And I'm already logged in, I believe. Yeah, I'm logged in. So if I weren't, it would give me a little screen to have me put in my credentials, but I'm already logged in. So it asked me, I've got multiple licenses here, and it asked me which license, and yeah, I want it on FictionSoft. So now I just click create to create a key, and I can name it anything I want. I'll just name it Austin Project Output, and I can give it a description if I want, or I can leave it blank. Click OK. That's it. That's how easy it is to create a key. And I then save, and I'm actually going to synchronize this. So it's this whole source control deal, and let's just say that I created a analytics key. It's always a good idea to add a comment when you're doing this. So what this is doing is it is just going through the motions of pulling changes. This is source control, so it's pulling changes that are on Central, because I might be working with other authors and I get their changes, and then it's going to push my changes up to Central. So once that's synchronized, actually I'm not even sure. So synchronization, I'm doing this synchronization because my project there, it's going through the poll, and it should just be a second here. I'm doing the synchronization because my project is up there, it's bound, and I want to have my files up there. So it should be all done. Yeah, it's all done. So I'm going to go back here and I'll click on analytics, and there's my key right here. Now nothing's in there yet because I haven't built any output. I can come in here and I can click on this and I can kick off a build, and we can come back to this in a little bit and see. But that's how easy it is to get up and running with this. I've already got my analytics key. So once this thing builds and I publish it and let people know about it and they start doing searches, that analytics is going to start filling up. I do want to go back to the other license here. I just wanted to show you real quickly how to get set up. Now, what I really want to show you here is this column, micro content results. I said before that, hey, Google could be really good, but there are limitations, especially with micro content, and this is what I'm talking about. So we added this column in here, and nobody else is doing this, as far as I know. I'm sure I'd be surprised if they were. What this is doing, this is the most useful thing to me. So what I do is I come into analytics and I'm looking at this and I go, okay, got all these search queries and stuff, but if I didn't have this column in here, I'd have to go, like if I were looking at this in Google Analytics, I would have to go, okay, people are looking for CSH. Do I already have some micro content for this? I'd have to go into Flair, search for it, try to, okay, yes, I have micro content, come back, look at the next one, do the same thing, and try to decide, try to understand whether I have already done the work. So what we did was we had this simple check mark in here. In this row, in this column, you either get a check mark or you get an X. And you get a check mark if people have searched for it and micro content is coming up. So you can see that I've already gotten a lot of micro content done for most of these. This goes on for pages and pages. You'll see check marks, and you have to scroll down a while before you get to an X. So if I just want to focus just on the stuff I haven't done yet, I just click this little filter and I say, doesn't have micro content. Just show me that, filter. And now it's gonna ignore all the check marks, and it's just going to give me the X's. And I have the phrases over here, and now I can go and I can start doing more work and creating more micro content if I want for these other things. And actually, a lot of the things you're seeing over here, I've already created micro content for the next version of Flair, but this is 2020 analytics, so it's still showing I haven't done it. But that's what I do. I just kind of work my way down. So I'm trying to give the audience the information that most people are after. I mean, I could go to page, look, it's already, I could go to page, you know, way back there, you know, in the thousands and thousands of pages where there's only one or two searches done for something, but I want to create content where there's a priority. That's the key. So if I'm creating micro content that only one person is searched for, it's probably not as useful as creating micro content that 83 people have searched for. So yeah, that gives you an idea of how micro content and analytics together can really enhance your output and the end user's experience.
So, you know, what I love about this too is that it is flexible. I mean, you kind of talked about, you know, this project is bound to Central, right? And you built on Central. But what's flexible about this, and maybe you can talk a little bit about it, just because we have some questions too, is, you know, your project, this one was bound, but you don't even have to be bound to Central, right? The project can be bound to something else. You can host your output anywhere. I mean, for this example, it's being served up from Central, but not everybody does that. And that's what I love about this is maybe you can talk a little bit about, you know, that option for folks. Maybe they choose to host their outputs on a private lockdown web server, or maybe it ships with the application and it lives on the end user's desktop.
Yeah.
You know, it's really can be that. I mean, all you need is a central account to start tracking this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We do have a lot of people that say, look, I don't want to host my output on Central. I want to maybe use some of the other things, but I don't, you know, so I'm not using analytics because I don't want my projects up there. Well, you don't have to. This is right here. This is the FictionSoft one, and you can see I've got 4 projects up here. Module 1, excuse me, my throat. Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, and Austin. Those are the 4 projects that I have bound here, but they don't have to be bound. In fact, I have this other project called San Diego right here. That one's not up there on Central, but if I go into here, I already set this up a while back, and this one is, there's my HTML target. If I open this thing up, it's done the same way. You open this up, you just have to have that Central account. So you have to, you know, log in and click the analytics. I'm already logged in, and you can see I've already created an analytics key for it in the same way that I did the other. I just click create, called it San Diego project, and then I built my output, and I just uploaded the files to a different server altogether. It has nothing to do with Central at all. And if I go back to Central, again, these are my projects, but if I go into analytics, there's the Austin project output key that I created. This is the one for the project that's not even bound to Central. If I open that up, you can see I've got already some analytics in here. The only thing that it requires is the output and analytics have to be able to connect so that Central knows how to report on this. So I can actually go in here. I've got some output. Notice that, so let's look at this. Zoo, 8 searches. And if I go in here and I go zoo, and let's click it a couple of times, and let's go back to Central, and I'll refresh, and now I've got 11. So you can see it's simple, it works perfectly. And you can also see over here, I do have the same thing. I've got some things that have micro content and some things that don't. So yeah, it's so cool that you don't have to have this stuff up on the project up on Central, bound to Central at all.
Right. All you need is that account. And
Yeah.
so, because I know some people use Central, that one Central author account can handle the output analytics for all of your targets. You don't need, that one Central account. You can set up and start tracking an unlimited number of targets that you're managing across different projects.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is that flexible. And so this is interesting. So we're talking about the phrases here. These are the phrases that people are typing in, the number of times, how many hits are given. These are actually searches that produce results, but I think it's important to touch on the other ones too, because
right.
yes, this can really help with micro content. We understand what people are searching on, and these are yielding results. But what's equally as important is what isn't yielding results. How can we make this better based on how people use it every day? Because this is, in my opinion, if they're not, everybody's maintaining this great body of knowledge. They've got the customer, they've got the user in mind, they want to give information. But if they're not finding it here, then they're probably going to tech support or opening up a support case that probably costs a lot more than the Central license per month. Not that people don't want to talk to their customers, but we know from these studies that if people can help themselves quickly and find what they want quickly and get their answer and move on, people are happier with the product or service. And as writers, we start not so much being what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like this cost center, right? You start really making an impact on the bottom line, because you're deflecting tickets that are coming in, and this can really help. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm back this is back in my main license, the MadCap software license, and this is another key in here. This is for the Central documentation, actually, and I clicked on this we were looking at phrases. Now this is phrases with no results. This is where people are searching for some things, and we don't have any information about it. Like people in Central are looking for Jira. Well, that's because we don't currently have any Jira integration. And so they're not finding it in the documentation. I do know that I've seen this when I was looking in the Flair analytics. For example, a lot of people wanted to know, I noticed they were looking for Mac. Does this work on a Mac? And so I created a little bit of micro content, even though I don't have any documentation that specifically has to do with Apple or the Mac. I did want to give them this little bit of information that even though Flair is a native Windows application, you can run Flair on a Mac. In fact, we had a VPI who wrote a blog post about it, so I just put this little link to the blog post. So the only reason I knew about this, to add this information and to respond to people so they don't have to call tech support and ask them, do you work on a Mac? They can click in here and they get the answer right away. So this is a really, really useful report. This phrases with no results. So yeah, I'm into these two reports a lot. There are these other reports that you get.
Yeah,
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, another thing too, one thing I've found, maybe this has happened to you, but with the phrases with no results, and you kind of touched on this, this is a good way to maybe get some good feature suggestions about your product or service. Also, sometimes you may, I've talked to other people who notice they run this phrases no results and they're seeing queries in there, and they know that there's information about it, but the way they've chosen to sort of write about the information is very different than how customers are searching on it. Like a simple example, you're documenting sofas and everybody's searching on couches. Nobody's going to find anything. So sometimes this can help too. It's not just a matter of, whether the content's missing, but maybe it helps you create some synonym relationships in your Flair project, which again, you don't need Central for that. But if you don't have the data readily available, it's really hard to guess and think about, well, again, how are people searching? If you didn't know something was sort of in your face telling you, gosh, everybody's searching on, couches and I've documented sofas. Well, now I can quickly create a search synonym in my Flair project so that they both equal each other. No matter what people are searching on, they're going to find it. We don't have to rewrite anything or create new stuff.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, actually I'm looking here, and this is an example of that right here. In the Central documentation, people are looking for Elasticsearch. Well, I know that I've got something about Elasticsearch in there. the thing is, they've got a space in here, and I haven't accounted for that yet. So what I need to do is go back into Flair, and I need to add an alternate phrase, or Flair has had this synonym functionality forever, where you can create a synonym file, and it's more powerful than just a flat alternate phrase, and those work with your micro content as well. So that's a really good point. So when I get to the point where I'm going back through this, I'll have to, this is a perfect example, I'm going to have to compensate. I'm going to have to account for this spelling right here. Yeah. Oh,
Okay, sorry.
let's see.
Let's go on. There's
Good.
other good stuff here we got to talk about. So I'd love to hear about the topics too, because this is really cool.
Yeah. So topics. What you can do is click on this, and this just tells you what topics are being hit the most. So you can see that the home page is being hit the most, and by far, and there's you understand why. It's the first thing that comes up, so of course it's going to get hit. But after that, what's getting a lot of attention? The What's New page and Central Reviews is getting a lot. So you can see where people's focus is, and that gives you an indication of maybe where your attention should be drawn. Maybe you need to spend some time giving that extra effort to make sure that it's up to snuff. You can also maybe see what topics aren't being seen. Maybe you've been working on, you've had a topic in your help system for a long time and it's a pain to manage. You can come in here and see, well, no one ever looks at it. Well, why isn't anybody looking at it? Well, maybe it's not important to them, or maybe there isn't links to it, or something like that. Maybe it's something you can get rid of, so you don't have to spend the time maintaining it. Mm-hmm. So that can be really useful. Context-sensitive links. So in the Central application, we have stuff in context-sensitive help. Let me think of one. Okay, like sites.
Like the new.
Yeah, right here. Themes. This is a piece of context-sensitive help where if somebody gets onto this page and they're not sure what to do about it, what it's all about, they can click on this and go right to that topic. So in context-sensitive help calls, I can go down, here it is, themes page, and I can see how many times people have clicked on that. So that can give you some good insight into what parts of the UI people are spending time on. Maybe there's some work that needs to be done. You can go back to your development team and say, maybe some things need to be a little more intuitive here, so people don't have to, I don't know, they don't need the context-sensitive help. There's, the information's there, whatever you do with it. Then there's things like browser statistics and under demographics. So you can come in here and see exactly what browsers people are using to see your stuff. And by far, you can see that people are using Chrome, and it gets nitty-gritty right down there to the exact versions that people are using, what percentage. So if I hover over that, I can see that 82.4% of our users are using Chrome. And you can see all the others listed here. This could be useful because maybe there's a browser like Internet Explorer, which is supposed to be going away, and you have documentation that's specifically designed for that. Or maybe you have features in your software, your company's features, and you're worried about whether this feature supports Internet Explorer. And maybe if you see, well, no one's using it anymore, you can, stop trying to support it. So that kind of information can come out of that report. And then there's operating statistics, and you can see obviously what operating systems people are using, and by far most people are using Windows 10, 89.2%, but they are using other things. Look at this, look at all these Mac operating systems, look at Android. So people might be thinking, hey, we don't need to support phones. Well, this tells you if, in fact, some people are looking at your documentation on a phone. And so you maybe need to consider your content and make it responsive. Use responsive layouts and responsive conditions so that when people look at it on a small screen, that it looks as good, it looks appropriate for that as it does on a big screen, you know. So yeah, so those are the reports. They're all really useful. Honestly, I spend most of my time up at the top though with phrases.
Right. Well, this is really great. So just to kind of, again, recap, again, micro content is the action, you know, creating micro content in Flair it's about developing phrases that point to a response.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, we want that response to be, if we have it, leverage it from our existing topics or our existing snippets. And really kind of thinking about, well, since it's all about phrases, you know, can we use analytics to help us out? You know, yes, you can guess. Yes, you can talk to people. That's all fine. But this is something that's immediate that we can act on, and we can start that process if we're going to cross that micro content bridge. But there's other elements here that can help us in other parts of the business. Obviously, we'd like to, you know, reduce the number of searches that retrieve nothing, because that's stuff that people want, they're looking for. But maybe we can make some other business decisions too, you know, with context sensitive help. You know, maybe we don't have a documentation problem. What's going on with this area of the app that's making everybody, you know, click help or F1, you know, maybe we can improve the UX around this, or maybe we can increase training information around this particular feature, because everybody's getting stuck here and calling for help. And then again, the browser and the operating system, making sure that we are making some good decisions about the browsers, the operating systems we support. And if we didn't think we had mobile users, you know, if we didn't think we had to worry about responsiveness, well, this can really help us make some decisions about that going forward. But the point is that it's actionable, it's immediate, and it's something that you can set up quickly. And all you need is that account. You don't need to host it here. You don't need to bind it here if you don't want to. Certainly you can, but it's quite flexible. So this is really helpful, Paul. You know, we're getting some really good questions that come in, and I'm just looking at the time. I think that we need to kind of talk about a couple things here before we get to some of these great questions. I don't know if we'll get to everybody, so let's see if I can get back to sharing my screen here. Oh boy, I lost my control panel. Sorry, folks.
Here, I'll make you presenter.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, so hopefully you can all see my screen. We should be back to that slide we were at before. Can you see those two panels there, that the webinar will be recorded? Can you see my PowerPoint? Yep. Okay, fantastic. So that means that part's working. I'm just going to advance it here real quick. Hopefully you can see this slide here. So just as a reminder, for MadWorld, which is our user conference, we did move it to October 3rd through the 6th, 2021. You can save up to $1,000 on your registration. So this is a clickable link, and everybody's going to get this deck. You can always click it and, you know, learn more, but it is on our website where you can get all of the registration information on our site with the new dates and the sessions and the speakers. It's going to be a fantastic lineup, so we hope to see you. Also, for those who may have received the announcement, we just started this boot camp. Now, the boot camp is a half-day event. It's going to be led by Scott Deloach and Mike Hamilton. And we filled up the first one, so we put up a second one. And so if anybody's interested in, you know, getting your skills to the next level, this is really about preparing you for the MAD certification test to become an advanced Flair developer. So there's a lot of great information in terms of what we cover in this boot camp on the site. Your registration fee actually covers the test, and which is a really good deal. So this prepares you for the test, and then you will get the ability to take it. So please check that out if you're interested. It's a half-day event on the 27th of October. And then the last thing, again, we're talking about Central, we're talking about Flair. If you don't have a license of Central, or if you don't have a trial yet and you're interested, you can get started on a 30-day trial. You have full access to me, my team, tech support, if you have any questions about getting going, getting your analytics set up. And if you're not already on Flair 2020, there is a discount going on. So the sales team is available to talk about any questions you have about any of this. Of course, I can help as well. Reach out to me directly, LinkedIn, if you have my email. I'd love to hear from you. So with that, I'm just going to get to the questions panel here. And by the way, you're going to receive a follow-up email, as I mentioned, with the links, with the deck, and the recording. We are also going to be sending out a brief survey in the follow-up email. We would love to hear from you. We want to know, how did we do today? What did you think? Or do you have ideas for other webinars in the future? So do look for that follow-up email. There will be a link to a super short survey. It takes a half a second to fill out. We'd love to get your feedback on how we did today. So in the last couple minutes, I don't think we're going to get to them all, but I hope you guys can stay on a few more minutes. I just want to cover some important ones here that have come up. Some sort of duplicate ones. And I think this is sort of, I like this question. I saw it come up a couple times, just to kind of get our arms around what's the difference of everything. So, specifically, the question is, we use drop downs a lot. How is micro content better?
Well, I don't know that it's not an either or, micro content and drop downs. I used to use drop downs extensively. And in the last couple of versions, I kind of moved away from them a lot. And there were a couple of reasons for that. And I love drop downs. I really like them. I like being able to see things, a bird's eye view, and then just expand what I want. But one of the reasons actually why I went away from them was because there were a couple of extra things that I had to do when I was creating micro content, because I didn't want the drop downs to be drop downs in micro content, but I did want them to be drop downs when somebody opened up the full topic. That doesn't mean you can't do micro content if you got drop downs. You absolutely can. I just found that, hey, it was just a little easier to do that. Plus, the thing about drop downs is once people land on a certain page, I know that some users were having problems with using the find function on the browser, where you just want to search the page. Well, you have to expand everything first in order for that to find stuff. And so to just kind of get around that, I eliminated a lot of the drop downs. But you can absolutely use drop downs and micro content, sure.
Right. It would actually kind of mimic, I've seen that in Google, you see that a lot. They're featured snippets in search, where you've got, you do a search, and if you have an idea about what to create, maybe you could create some drop downs that kind of mimic that experience, like kind of shows what other people are asking.
Mm-hmm.
And by having the search data, what other people are asking, so you could create those little drop downs to mimic that experience if you wanted. So certainly both can be used together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I've got a lot of comments. People really like the fact that you're using those animated GIFs in addition to your text and your images. So the inquiring minds want to know, what are you using for the animated GIF tool?
Yeah, that's like number 2 on the questions that I get in my position. Everybody always wants to know that. I know that I'm using a free third-party tool called, it says LiceCap is the name of it, LICECAP, and it's the weirdest name for software. I don't know where that comes from, but I did a Google search, and I wanted something that was free and easy and looped. That's what I wanted. I know a lot of people talk about, Snagit, I think has something in there where you can use that. Fine, use that. I use Capture for all of our images, and we just don't have that thing. And so, yeah, I use LiceCap, and it works perfectly. I use it all the time.
Right. Another good question came in, again, sort of a conceptual thing, kind of differentiating micro content from other things that Flair can provide. So specifically, the question was, an index versus micro content. Can you compare and contrast? Why would you use one or the other? What's the differences between the two? And
okay, so I don't think that using micro content means that you don't use an index. The thing is, with micro content, it's only supported in HTML5, and you can do an index in HTML5, but it's a little bit trickier than doing it in, say, a CHOM or
PDF.
Something else. Yeah, PDF, something that's where it really linear like that, where you need an index and a TOC. So you can do that. You can use a proxy to create that. But what I've found was most people are using search in online more than they do indexes. But if you can have, there's no problem having both. Give people all the ammunition that they can handle. I just don't put a premium on using indexes so much in online because I feel like most people are using search or using the navigation. That's just, I just don't want to spend the time, maintaining the index so much. So that was just a decision I made. Now, if people come back and they say, well, we really wish you had one in the online help, then I'll look at doing it. And in the PDFs, I'll still have indexes for the really, really large PDFs. So again, I don't know that's an either or, but the micro content, I just don't think anything is beating that feature as far as finding what you want at the moment.
Right. That's more than just text, perhaps. A little tutorial, an image, for example. This is a really good question, and maybe I can take this one. Question is, does every Flare user in our organization need a central license, or can one person have a central license in the organization to set up the analytics? That's a really good question. Actually, you only need one central account. If all you're using Central for is analytics, then honestly, you really only need the one account. That one person can log into Central and track all of the targets that every team member is managing. So that's really all you need. I mean, we do have, again, it's the single author price for Central is $109 per month. So, for $109 per month, you're getting some amazing data really quickly that's going to pay for itself, particularly when we start looking at these other data sets and how it can affect other departments, like ticket deflection.
Yeah.
So, yes, you can really use just one author account if you're going to, use it only for the output analytics, because again, the project doesn't have to be bound to Central. We just have to tell that target that we want to start tracking you, and we're going to use Central as our window into that data. So one person would be able to log in and get the analytics. We didn't talk about it, but there's also an option too for every data point. Central gives some pretty nice charts and donuts and all those fun things, but you do have the option too to download each one of those metrics into a CSV file. So if you wanted to, pivot table that data to your heart's content, you have the option to do so. So I thought that was a good question. I think we have time for maybe one or two more here. I know we're going over just a little bit, so I apologize for everybody. We're going to be sending a question and answer. So while this is still open, please get your questions in because we will follow up, of course, after the fact. So is MadCap Central a separate license, or does it come bundled with Flair? So if you subscribe to the authoring and management system, which is sort of a complete solution for authoring and publishing and all the content management pieces, then you have Central. You have a license of Central with your subscription. If you only use Flair, then yes, you can subscribe to Central a la carte, should you choose. And that's certainly an option too. So it doesn't come with your license of Flair specifically. If that's all you're using, you can evaluate it and subscribe to it separately, but it is part of the authoring and management system, otherwise known as AMS. So let's see, I think let's do one more. And again, just to kind of circle back to the concept again, and I saw this a couple times, so I thought I'd repeat it. Do I need Central for micro content?
No,
no,
you don't.
Right.
You don't. We came out with micro content first, or we already had Central, but we didn't have analytics in there. We just wanted to talk about micro content and its relationship with analytics because it just makes it something that's powerful, even more powerful. But you could just have Flair and never have Central at all and just live happily ever after. Not as happy, because you would be happier if you had Central and had access to all this data. But yeah, you can absolutely create micro content to your heart's desire. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one more other good question too to cover, because I think maybe some folks are scratching their heads this whole thing like, how does that actually work if I'm not hosting it there? And the question is there documentation posted anywhere for how to set up a private server to talk to the Central server to get the analytics hosted on that private server? So maybe we need to, I think just to kind of clarify that, again, the output that you build in Flair that has that Central tracker key in it, you're essentially building your output with that key.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it flexible to host anywhere.
Yeah, Central's just looking at that key. And as long as you have an internet connection and that output connects, like I could just create output that has an analytics key and just have it locally right there on my laptop.
On your machine only.
On my
Nobody
machine.
else.
No one else in the universe sees it. And I could be having it doesn't do much good because I know what I'm clicking, but it's just that it can talk to it. So as far as setting up another server, no, we don't necessarily go down that route. That's sort of outside of the scope. We have, I know that we have our own server. We have a CDN server that we use to host a lot of content. And but I know nothing about how that was just set up already. That's something you would probably need to talk to an IT person to get.
Yeah, but as
elsewhere.
long as you're right, but as long as your target has that key enabled,
That's
however
it.
you build it and publish it, you can still adhere to all of those existing publishing processes. But as long as that target file has that analytic key, it doesn't matter where it ends up being served from. It can be from your own private server, CDN, it doesn't matter. It could be shipped with your app and installed on an end user's desktop.
Right.
As long as that person has an internet connection, Central will be able to track that information.
Right, we have two versions of the help. We've got a local version and we've got a server version. And so when you install Flair, you get to say whether you want to install the local help. And that's just right there on your desktop if you select that. And so if you're using that, it can still talk to Central and report.
Right. And just sort of a follow-up question that came in, because I thought this was good, and I'll just repeat it for everybody who's still on. So what you're saying, Jen, is that with a single Central license, you can still use something like SVN and host your HTML docs wherever, however you want, but Central will give you those analytics. And the answer is yes. So as long as you have that one Central account, you can log in, create that analytic key like we showed you today on the target, and you can track your targets individually. You can track them all together. Your Central account will be the window into that data no matter where it ends up being bound for source control and no matter where it ends up being hosted. So I think that's what I love about it, because it's so flexible in that way. It gives you those options. So that was really great. Well, Paul, thanks for joining our fun today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and again, I just want to thank the audience. Thanks for being so engaged. Thanks for everybody's fantastic questions. I hope you liked this format a little bit better, a little bit different than what we always do. Not so PowerPoint heavy, a little bit more show and tell, and you get to see the presenters, which I thought is kind of fun. We're going to get to everybody's questions. It's going to take us a little time to compile and get it back, but please don't worry if we didn't get to your question. We do want to get back to everybody. So thanks again, Paul. Thanks to the audience and for being so engaged. I hope everybody found this useful. Do look for that survey that's going to come out as a follow-up with a link to the recording. We want to hear from you and hear your suggestions and what you think about what you saw today. So definitely appreciate it. Thanks so much, and hope everybody has a great rest of the week and a restful weekend when it's upon us. So thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.